Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos al primer ciclo de webinarios de la Oficina Europea. Nos decía bienvenidos al primer webinario que organizamos para Reto 6 desde la Oficina Europea del Ministerio de Economía y Competitividad. Mi nombre es Rocío Castrillo, me imagino muchos de vosotros me conocéis, soy representante nacional y punto nacional de contacto para Reto 6 y también para el programa Ciencia con y para la Sociedad. Físicamente aquí conmigo y también a través del streaming nos acompañan las otras dos puntos nacionales de contacto, Mar Mesas, que está aquí en Oficina Europea, y Carolina Rodríguez, que es parte de la Agencia Andaluza del Conocimiento. Como os decía, voy a tomar un tiempo muy breve para presentar lo que va a ser el ciclo completo de webinarios. Como veis, tenemos 3 webinarios planificados. El primero es hoy, de 11 a 12 y media, en el que nos acompaña Yuri Borgman-Prebil, que es Policy Officer de la Comisión Europea en la unidad B6, responsable de Reto 6 y especialista y con responsabilidad directa en el área de ciudadanía y desigualdades. En este primer webinario presentará las convocatorias que tenéis en pantalla, Co-Creation 7 y 8, Repiniqual 11, 12 y 13, en Globally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 y 10. Como os decía, estos son los 3 webinarios que tenemos planificados para las próximas semanas, para las convocatorias de 2017 de Reto 6. El primero se celebra hoy, es la presentación por parte del Policy Officer de la Comisión Europea, Yuri Borgman-Prebil. Va a presentar los topics que tenéis en pantalla de los 4 calls que tenemos, Co-Creation, Repiniqual, en Globally y CultCop. El jueves 3 de noviembre tendremos otro webinario en el que nos acompañará en este caso Jean-François Juncker, que es de la unidad de DigiConnect de Open Government y ICT for Government and Public Services, que presentará el resto de los topics que no serán presentados en esta sesión, que son Co-Creation 1, 4, 6, Repiniqual 9 y CultCop 9 y 11. Para los que os estéis interesados y no os hayáis inscrito, a través de este link podéis inscribiros. Y un último webinario el jueves 10 de diciembre de 11 a 12 y media, en el que no se presentan tanto convocatorias, sino buenas prácticas y recomendaciones de personas que han estado involucradas de distintas maneras en las convocatorias europeas, para compartir con vosotros lo que es su experiencia en la preparación de propuestas en Horizonte 2020, en concreto en Reto 6. Nos acompaña, por un lado, una coordinadora de un proyecto, el proyecto Citadel, la Leire Oru Echevarría, de la división de ICT de Tecnalia, y un evaluador de la última convocatoria, que fue Fermín Serrano, de la Fundación Ibercibes. De nuevo, si no os habéis registrado y tenéis interés, podéis hacer el registro a través de la web. Durante la sesión, en principio, Yuri nos va a hacer la presentación completa de lo que va a ser la convocatoria, bajo la responsabilidad de Digi Research, y se os puede dar la circunstancia cómo intervenir durante la sesión y exponer dudas. En principio, las preguntas con micro abierto las tomaremos al final de la exposición de Yuri. Si queréis hacer alguna pregunta específica o técnica, tenéis el chat, estará mi compañera Mar Mesas respondiendo las preguntas que puedan surgir, como digo, más de tipo técnico, y de alguna manera reservamos las preguntas de contenido para el final de la sesión. Para más información, a partir de aquí, esta es nuestra página web de referencia, en la que trabajamos todos los puntos nacionales de contacto de Horizonte 2020. Es el portal único de información del Ministerio de Economía y Competitividad, donde incluimos nuestra información tanto desde Oficina Europea como desde el CEDETI, y bueno, pues que creemos es una fuente es un punto de referencia para todos los que estáis preparando propuestas, donde subimos los talleres que estamos organizando en distintos puntos de España e informamos sobre todas las actividades de promoción que realizamos. La página, como veis en pantalla, es horizonte2020.es. Y de forma muy breve los servicios de los NCPs que ofrecemos para los que os embarcáis en este reto de preparar una propuesta europea. Para coordinadores ofrecemos el asesoramiento sobre el encaje de la idea del proyecto, muy a principio del trabajo, cuando se abre la convocatoria o en cualquier momento en el que queráis hacernos las consultas. También ofrecemos ya para las últimas fases de la preparación de propuesta la lectura de propuestas con una fecha límite de recepción hasta 3 semanas antes de la fecha del cierre. Entendemos que normalmente no es la versión definitiva, pero bueno, pues normalmente 3 semanas antes los proyectos que están trabajando con los plazos adecuados ya tienen una versión, digamos, consolidada sobre las que se puede dar comentarios. Organizamos talleres de preparación y escritura de propuestas y, por supuesto, resolvemos las consultas o las dudas que os puedan ir surgiendo a través de nuestro correo o por teléfono. Para socios, para los que no actúan como coordinadores dentro de un consorcio, sino que adquieren un papel de socios, ofrecemos las herramientas de búsqueda de socios a través de los servicios de la red de puntos nacionales de contacto Net for Society y asesoramos en la medida de nuestras posibilidades sobre el perfil que vais a publicar en las redes para hacerlo lo más atractivo posible. Y, por supuesto, de nuevo, la resolución general de consultas que os pueden ir surgiendo en el proceso. Y bueno, yo con esto ya me despido para dar la palabra a Yuri. Os dejo nuestro email de contacto en el que respondemos las 3 puntos nacionales de contacto, sociedades.h2020@oficinaeuropea.es. Y bueno, pues esperamos que disfrutéis de este webinario, que os aporte claves interesantes para la preparación de propuestas y que sigamos en contacto para realmente poner una propuesta sobre la mesa que sea evaluada por la Comisión Europea. Okay, we are ready. Yuri, are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm there.
So thank you very much, Yuri, for coming here to join us. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Buenos dias from very rainy, damp, and cold Brussels. As introduced, I'm going to present to you now a good chunk of the 2017 calls and topics of Societal Challenge 6 of Horizon 2020. So those topics which are open in 2017. Before I go into the first call, reversing inequalities, you will see there are a couple of introductory slides. I will not speak to all of them, but just to a few to situate a little bit where Societal Challenge 6 and our topics fit in with Horizon 2020. So if you could go to the second slide. Is that okay? Do you see that? Just a quick reminder of the 3 main pillars of Horizon 2020. So excellent science, what is most known there, of course, Marie Curie actions, industrial leadership, and then the societal challenges on the right, the green column, of which there are 7. We are number 6. So there's, of course, health, there is food security, there is energy, there's transport, climate action, and finally security, and we are encircled in red, inclusive, innovative, and reflective societies. If you look at the budgets, you will see that our budget isn't particularly great, in relation to the other societal challenges. If we go to the next slide, that is actually quite important. You know that the 2017 topics are part of the 2016-17 work program, so the middle work program of Horizon 2020. So actually the topics were already decided, and we presented them already last year, that is most of them, but not all. We have included a few new topics on migration, and I will expand a little bit more on those, because this is really new. This is a novelty of the 2017 part of the work program. So you will see here just a list of numbers really of topics open. So 5 topics under co-creation, 2 reopened, reversing inequalities, 4 open, engaging together globally 9, and cultural cooperation 11. If you go to the next slide, slide number 4, you'll see the 5 new topics on migration, which we inserted, which is an additional budget. This was in response, obviously, to the so-called migration crisis or perhaps challenge. So we acted swiftly and amended the existing work program by introducing new topics. Sorry, this is the slide number 4 just refers to key documents. The first one is the European Agenda on Migration, which have been adopted in the wake of the crisis and to which we are reacting. The new topics are on slide number 6. Yeah. So there you can see, first of all, that we had already an existing topic on migration. We will come to that when I go through the different courses. So engaging globally 3. So under the engaging globally core, we already had included prior to the amendment a topic on migration, and then we have added 5 with this additional budget that I mentioned. And 3 of these topics, the first 3, are included in the reversing inequalities core. And again, I come to them as I go through. An additional topic on migration and asylum systems is included on in the amended engaging globally core. And one on the significance of cultural and core values is included, so amended in the amended cultural cooperation core. And that will actually be the final topic at the end of the presentation that I go to speak about. If you could go just back one slide, so slide number 5. This is sort of the context, and these 3 publications are sort of the context out of which these new 5 topics were born. You may be aware, some of you may even have attended the conference we organized and held here in Brussels back in February, where also the policy review, research on migration, facing realities and maximizing opportunities, on the right, you see the front, the cover, was launched, and that's of course available online. And we also put online the conference report. And in this conference report, we identified research gaps. Obviously, the conference report also summarizes the main proceedings and the findings, but also identifies the research gaps. And in 2017, we are now starting to address these research gaps. So this is the reason why you find these new topics. Of course, I foreshadow this. I'm going to stick to 17, but it shouldn't surprise you that in the final work program of Horizon 2020, covering the years 2018 to 20, we are starting to work on this. We will, in all likelihood, have considerable attention being paid to migration as well. It will probably be a call as well. But now let's stick to 17. So, quick look at the budget, slide number 8, for the different, how it spreads. And for 2017, you can see that a lot of money this year is allocated for engaging globally and cultural cooperation. Ref Unequal originally had only 1 topic open, but of course now the 4 new ones on migration. Okay, I think this should be enough for an introduction. So I go into the call. And I've been asked with regard to the first call. So if you can go to slide number 9. Co-creation for growth and inclusion. In red you can see the two reopened topics, but I'm not going to speak about that. I've been asked to present co-creation 7 and 8. Co-creation 7 should be on page 50, on slide 15, I believe. That's correct. So if we could go to slide 15. Sorry, I have to do this on my screen here as well. Keep track with you. So this is both research and innovation action, and which is accompanied by a CSA, by a coordination and support action. It's about towards a new growth strategy in Europe, improved economic and social measurement, data, and official statistics. So the point is to improve the data on both tangible and intangible investment, and also to incorporate unofficial and unstructured sources within established statistics. This is a coordination and support action, and the idea is to set up a research platform, and we've got a designated name for it, which is cross-migration, to map, assemble, and synthesize the existing European research on migration and research conducted at member state level or other levels. So the point is very much to include in the survey research material that is not necessarily or probably not currently on our radar. So research funded by other programs than Horizon 2020. This is very important. So applicants must be in the position to assess and survey research conducted at various levels and sponsored by states perhaps or even regions. And that should also include initiatives taken in response to the recent migration flows. So, so it's not new research, but surveying, assessing existing research. And it's also clearly expected that the platform makes recommendations on how to better integrate migration research across Europe. This is particularly important in relation to data generation and data collection and processing. So the platform should analyze data with a view to facilitating comparability of data collected by various actors and organizations. We understand that this is not easy, but progress is really needed on this. This is a clear outcome, was a clear outcome of our conference that I mentioned before. Proposals may also extend comparisons beyond European countries. That is fine, but that should be done with a view to drawing lessons for Europe. As far as the substance, so the themes are concerned, we've spun the net quite widely. So it should look at interplay between policies and flows, interrelations between migration drivers such as conflict, underdevelopment, poverty, climate change, as well as exploitation of refugee and migrants during transit and in destination countries. As far as impact is concerned, we expect a really comprehensive, or as comprehensive as possible, inventory of current migration research conducted and financed at EU and member state level. That is, again, the point. And this platform should make progress towards better integrating migration research and data across the EU. Policy recommendations are, of course, expected on how to design acceptable policies needed to address the migration challenge. The platform is also expected to produce comprehensive cross-national comparative knowledge on trajectories, including onward and return migration, as well as categories of migrant cohorts. Finally, an interactive database of migration research should be established. We want also a database. So that is Ref n equal 11 as said, a new topic. Moving on to the next one, Ref n equal 12, just the next slide, 21. Again a platform, again a CSA, but a different one. So this CSA, this coordination and support action should bring together research communities and stakeholder representatives and practitioners. So more precisely, this research social platform on migration and asylum, or RESOMA as we call it, should serve as an interface between the academy, the research on the one hand, and practitioners such as European and national policymakers, local actors, authorities, international organizations, NGOs, and social partners on the other. So academy, so research, practitioners, interface. So the composition of this platform is the main difference to the previous platform. I should stress that among the practitioners, I already hinted at this, we really would like to see cities and regional authorities. Again, this was a clear outcome of our policy, of our research analysis, the gap analysis. The involvement of cities and regional partners is absolutely key. This is, of course, where migrants are hosted. This is where integration should happen, or where it fails. So it is important for applications to include cities or local authorities. Okay, substantively, we would like to see stakeholder workshops and policy briefs to cover evolving forms of migration and mobility, migrant reception procedures. We would like integration measures to be covered, asylum procedures, skills recognition, training of migrants, and as well as innovative actions to ensure the best possible reception and integration of migrants into their new local environment. And here, again, you can see that cities or local authorities are probably very important. As far as impact is concerned, the platform should build a network which should aim to continue beyond the duration of the action, if at all possible. So the network should be built, and it will be supported, of course, but then ideally it should continue its operation beyond the support. And policy recommendations should stem from participatory workshops and policy briefs already mentioned, so they should be discussed and agreed by stakeholders. So this discursive dialogical generation of policy recommendations is intended to strengthen the communication, learning, and best practice sharing between stakeholders. So a lot of emphasis is really focused on how these two cohorts of stakeholders interact. And of course, findings should be translated into policy advice that is tailored for end users, notably, of course, the Commission, member states, and again, local authorities. And that's why it's important that these stakeholders are on board. Okay, so these are the two new CSAs under REF in Equal. And then there is finally REF in Equal 13, which is under this call, Reversing Inequalities, the only new research and innovation action on migration. So this is research on employability, skills, labor market integration of migrants. The starting point here is the realization that the inflow of large numbers of migrants and refugees poses, of course, significant challenges to the economies and society. It is often argued that labor market integration of migrants and refugees is key to societal integration. Many people we found argue that this should be the starting point, and it's the key to societal integration. So, hence this focus on labor market integration, on how skills and employability can be improved. Access to education is, of course, also very important in this regard. Because the flip side is exclusion from labor market and education may lead to or solidify social exclusion. Hence, the social and economic consequences of potential social exclusion migrants should be investigated as well. Research should take stock of skills and qualifications of the post-2014 migrants, so including, obviously, the many asylum seekers and refugees, in order to gauge the potential for their integration. Light needs to be shed also on the reasons for unemployment and inactivity of migrants. And comparisons between the post-2014 migrants with earlier cohorts should also be explored. Are there any notable differences? Special attention should be given to the integration of women and young migrants into the labor market. Comparative research is obviously called for and where relevant, including third countries. Projects should also assess a wide range of interventions, for example, in the fields of education and training, recognition of qualification and skills, and removing legal restrictions to early labor market entry. So what are the impacts of removing the many and varying restrictions to access the labor market by asylum seekers? What would happen if they were removed? So as far as impact is concerned, key outputs are analytical data sets on skills, qualifications, and employability, which are intended to help design policies and programs that facilitate labor market or early labor market integration. And we also expect identification and recommendations of best practices and benchmarks for measuring the effectiveness of employment policies for migrants. So this concludes the Reversing Inequalities call, and indeed the first three new topics on migration. And as you noticed, I deliberately expanded on them because they are really new. So now we move on to the next call, which is engaging together globally. You have an overview on slide 23. And I've been asked to speak to most of them. As you can see, the final one in green is again a new topic on migration. So here I'll speed now up a little bit. You have, chances are that you have come across these before. This has of course been published for a while. I'm also conscious of time, so there we go. Engaging globally, 1, strengthening Europe's position in the global context, science diplomacy, and intercultural relations. Slide 24. Slide 24, engaging globally, 1. Big topic, 3 dimensions, big budget. So quite a hybrid. So it brings together, so it tries to link scientific expertise and cooperation with diplomacy. The idea here is, of course, to assess, and we have, I think, a CSA later on this as well, science diplomacy, the possibilities of when ordinary, especially when ordinary diplomatic channels are dry up a little bit, when diplomatic relations are difficult, to try to maintain links through academies. That's, of course, the idea. The second strand, B, that's on European culture, values, and reflections of European colonial past in contemporary European societies. So actually, the influence of the colonial past from former colonies in the former colonizing powers. It's quite an interesting topic. The third strand is global trends of secularization, religious radicalization, and the role of Europe. Next slide, engaging globally 2. This is on geopolitics. It probably doesn't need much explanation. Geopolitics is back big time. So, and we have to look at how we can better anticipate such shocks and risks. So we would like projects to look at long-term transformations, challenging the traditional predominance of the West and the Union's capacity for guaranteeing its citizen security. And of course, what needs to be studied is recent global geopolitical developments. We have, of course, it's not spelled out, but Ukraine, particularly on our minds here. Ukraine and what happens in relations with Russia there. And of course, we want our studies to prepare us better for managing future risks and also exploiting opportunities. But it's all about bringing this on the agenda again and enhancing preparedness for geopolitical shifts and changes. Engaging globally, where are we? 3. That is an already mentioned, old, so originally included topic on migration. So we had that already drafted in 15 and was included in the 16-17 work package from the beginning, and we are glad to have it. So it's not one of the new ones, but in one that was always had been there from the beginning. So the EU and the global challenge of migration. This is about understanding the root causes of migration, interplay with other determinants, and in particular, we have in mind here the migration development nexus. Given this nexus, we would like projects to pronounce on policy coherence and effectiveness in the field of migration management in relation with other countries, or these new tools and agreements that are have been concluded. And we are looking for an integrated approach to migration and development, where again, as said, policy coherence is key. So then moving on to the next one, engaging together globally, already mentioned. This is also on science diplomacy with a particular focus on the neighborhood countries. It's a CSA, Coordination and Support Action, to consolidate the body of knowledge on science diplomacy in the service of European neighborhood policy. And there, of course, this being a CSA, we want wide dissemination, so synthesizing and disseminating further the existing body of knowledge on science diplomacy. Where are we? The next one is focused on trade. So the Engaging Globally 5, slide number 28, the strategic potential of EU external trade policy. We expect insights into the evolving EU member states bi- and multilateral trade strategies, looking at interlinkages of external policies, and again, coherence is a key point, coherence and effectiveness and consistency. To what an extent are trade policies coherent with, consistent with other domains of external relations, foreign policy, but also other areas of diplomacy. Okay, I should perhaps speed up a bit. Moving on to number 6. Now we have a number of topics which focus on specific regions, and this is the first one. We had that also for 2016 on the number. Oops. So the Engaging Globally number 6, the Asia Pacific as a strategic region for Europe. The point is to attain a comprehensive overview of strategic challenges that Europe faces in these various zones in the Asia Pacific, including neglected facets, and this is indeed why we included it, because we felt there this has been neglected. This should, of course, inform foreign policy actors and look at various at governance structures in the Asia Pacific, and also study whether there are certain challenges for Europe. Then we have number 7, slide 30, support action, coordination and support action on the European Union and Central Asia this time. The idea is to improve the ties of the EU with the region and countries of Central Asia in all socioeconomic, political, security, and cultural and scientific areas. We would expect, this being a CSA, formulation also of short and long-term, but also short-term priorities for EU policies towards the region, including also for education and media. This should set up, of course, a network of European researchers in the field of Central Asian studies and new forms of cooperation with counterparts in these countries. Moving on to 8. This has been contested for some time. EU-China cooperation on sustainable urbanization. So the idea is to enhance a reciprocal knowledge of urbanization process, both in China and here, of course. And the idea is to make available to the network data and expertise from both, of course, the EU, but also China. And as outputs, we expect new models of sustainability, of sustainable urban development, which is adapted to local socioeconomic, cultural, and political specificities. So very much China-EU focused study on urbanization, which access, and that's the main point, to data which otherwise wouldn't be accessible to us. And then finally, that's the final topic of this call, Engaging Global 10, already flagged before because it is also a new, now the fourth new 2017 migration topic. This is a research and innovation action on migration and asylum systems. We understand that this is, of course, under development. So the Commission, DG Home in particular, are now working on reforms of the Dublin regimes, etc. So applicants must be willing and ready and able to very swiftly familiarize themselves with the policy processes and the currently debated drafts. This is very important. So this is a research action which will accompany a policy reform process which has already started. And the point is, of course, also, first of all, comparative research to examine the differences between the member states' different asylum systems, so their laws and policies, including their implementation or lack of implementation sometimes, under stress, so in the wake of the mass influx of migrants. And of course, the big topic here is researchers should identify alternative avenues towards more harmonization. So thinking innovatively about harmonization or about convergence, this is of course the big topic on asylum. How much harmonization or convergence is needed, acceptable, accepted? That is the key question. Yeah? So what kind and what degree of harmonization convergence is required, is sustainable in order to really establish properly a common European asylum system that is fit to respond to current developments, including mass influxes. And of course, this research, as already indicated, should inform future policy initiatives, of course, but it is also being conducted in parallel to reform processes, and that is very important that applicants are absolutely clear about that they are also expected to follow that policy reform process and the debate, which have already started and will go on for some years, so in parallel to the project. So this concludes the Engaging Globally call. And now I move on swiftly to the final call, Understanding Europe, Cultural Cooperation. Again, there's the overview, slide 33. You can see in green, Cultural Cooperation 12, again, the final new topic on migration. And now I speak first about this first 7 I've been asked, Cultural Cooperation 1 to 7, starting with 1, Democratic Discourses and the Rule of Law, 34. I have to find it now here. Okay. I should flag, you can see it at the bottom of the slide in green. We have, of course, a pilot on for 2017 for cultural cooperation, for the cultural cooperation call of a 2-stage submission scheme where a summary focusing on scientific excellence and impact is submitted in the first stage on the 2nd of February. Then a pre-selection will be made, and only a smaller number will be then invited to make a submission by September, 13th of September for the 2nd stage. This is a pilot. we are open to explore this model, and we honestly do not know yet what the outcome will be, or there is no bias, there's no predisposition that we will go this way or the other. We just explore it. Okay, to the substance. Cultural cooperation. 1, democratic discourse and the rule of law. This is very much about contemporary legitimate discourses and perhaps trying to find innovative approaches to legitimation discourse beyond democratic participation. Also looking at justice and fairness. So the question is, does the EU do justice and fairness, or maybe even jurisprudence processes engender legitimacy or not? And of course, this should feed into future constitutional arrangements. There will probably, in the next few years, not be a major treaty reform, but still, we should be preparing the ground for it, and so addressing the fundamentals of the constitution of sovereignty and democracy, and to look at how legitimacy is not only based on democratic procedures, but also on upholding the rule of law, on maybe widening the rule of law, on delivery of justice and fundamental rights in particular. Cultural cooperation number 2. Improving mutual understanding among Europeans by working through troubled or difficult paths. That's a very interesting topic, which looks at the practice and opportunities flowing from reappraising uncomfortable histories with a view to enhancing mutual understanding about Europeans. So the exemplar is, of course, Germany with its Nazi past and the Holocaust, but other member states had difficult past in the sense of having had authoritarian regimes, of course, the relatively new Eastern countries with their Soviet legacy, but also Spain, Portugal, and to some extent Greece. Yeah? So the question is, how does the educational system, that's one limb, on the one hand, and civil society, including journalism, deal with this troubled past? Is it used, can it be used to establish perhaps a new identity? Are there European connections? Yeah? Is it possible to reconnect with the raison d'etre of European integration, so establishing peace, etc., etc. So looking at uncomfortable or difficult pasts, authoritarian regimes, is this covered at school, to what an extent, is it part of the discourse in the media, in politics, and how, what's the European dimension of it? Cultural cooperation number 3, slide 36, cultural literacy of young generations. The idea is, so also research innovation action, so the idea is to, through research, enhance the cultural literacy of young generations by making innovative use of culture and cultural heritage through comparative analysis of that literacy in various countries, so clearly a comparative element. We want projects to look at teaching materials and other tools used for formal education, but also look at real-life context and promoting cultural literacy, so informal education, very much like the last topic. There's on the one hand, formal education, on the other hand, informal and civil society, etc. Cultural cooperation 4, slide 37. Research innovation action here on 2.5 million, so one dimension only. Contemporary histories of the representations of Europe in literature and the arts. Projects are expected to investigate the developing representations of Europe in artistic expression, so that we gain a better understanding of cultural Europeanization in the making. Or that's, of course, also a question: is there a cultural Europeanization in the making? This should include also non-elitist cultural narratives in various languages, cultures, religions, etc. We hope that this would go some way towards an enhanced cultural intercomprehension among Europeans, especially young Europeans. So a cultural understanding, the better comprehension of each other through cultural understanding, through representations, to studying the representations of Europe in the art. Cultural cooperation number 5. Religious diversity in Europe, past, present, future, obviously very topical. I don't need to say much about this. It's about analyzing and hoping to improve the coexistence of religious communities in Europe. And this should include historical and comparative perspectives, so that Europeans can understand better what are the requirements for religious coexistence. Here again, innovative dissemination tools for education purposes are important. Cultural cooperation number 6. Participatory approaches and social innovation in culture. Here we have a research innovation action worth 2.5 million, combined with a CSA, with a coordination support action, worth 1.5 million. And for the latter, the 2-stage procedure does not apply. That goes through the normal 1-stage procedure. Okay. So the point is to develop the role of European cultural institutions as cultural service providers and hubs of social innovation. So we would like to look at innovative ways of cultural transmission and creative reuse. This should support cultural ministries and institutions on how to promote European culture and democratize access to culture more. Cultural cooperation number 7, slide 40, cultural heritage and European coastal and maritime regions. So clear focus on these regions. We've had this before. We want projects to, it's only one dimension, to budget 2.5 million. We expect a deepening of the knowledge and sustainable preservation of cultural heritage of coastal and maritime regions and landscapes. Case studies and tailor-made pilot projects should be put in practice. We want projects to explore new sustainable cultural heritage-related career opportunities, actually, in the studied regions as well. Then I was asked to go to number 12. This is again the final new 2017 migration topic: the significance of cultural and core values for the migration challenge. Of course, a sensitive topic, but we felt important. So we have, of course, seen that the large and sudden influx of refugees from different cultural and religious backgrounds has been perceived as a challenge, and also as a challenge perhaps for some of our core values. And we felt that that needed to be studied sensitively. So what's the cultural impact of migration on European societies? What do we do if populations feel that this amounts to a challenge of fundamental values. So research should explore both normatively and empirically the impact of this migration and the response and how this responses in relation to fundamental values. Research should also study the historical and philosophical development and the legal foundations of these ideals and values, as well as their contemporary contestation and reconceptualization. So we also want, at the same time, that researchers actually go to the fundamental of the fundamentals. So it's study the historical and philosophical foundation and evolution and legal our values and how they have been ongoingly contested and reconceptualized, irrespective also of migration, and now of course in the wake of migration and formal migration influxes. So that's it actually. These were the topics I was asked to speak to. That's the final topic of the final call. I thank you very much for listening. I hope that it worked here over the phone, and I give back to Osio.
Thank you, Yuri. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. Can you hear me? Yuri, at least?
I can hear you, yes, yes.
Okay, because the others cannot talk here. Okay, we are going to begin with questions. We have several questions on the chat, but I will give the floor to the right hands first. So you will receive the questions directly from them, and afterwards I will give you the questions from the chat. Okay. Para el resto de los asistentes voy a dar paso a las manos alzadas. No sé si lo habéis visto en vuestro panel. Hay una opción donde asistentes de alzar la mano en el caso de que queráis coger la palabra directamente y formular la pregunta directamente a Yuri. Si no, opción de chat de preguntas, donde podéis formular específicamente vuestras preguntas, que no es lo mismo que chat, donde podéis incluir comentarios para ser discutidos entre todos los asistentes, pero no se llevarán a la sesión general y no se trasladarán allí. Empezamos con la pregunta de Ricardo Mateo. Ricardo, ¿nos oyes? Buenos días. Hola, Ricardo. Bueno, Ricardo no está escuchando o no consigue conectar en este mismo momento. Le voy a pasar la palabra a Ana Bardolet.
Hola.
Hola.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a question that was on the English, the Globally 3 challenge.
Sorry, it's difficult to understand global.
Yeah, sorry, your microphone went out when you were talking about that, so I didn't really hear what you said. So if you could just give a tiny re-explanation, that would be great. But otherwise, my question was that we would like to know if it's more likely that the EU will fund 2 different projects of 2.5 million each, focusing on one dimension, or if it's more likely that it'll fund one project that that is 5 million and that focuses on both. On that. Thank you.
Right. Shall I answer this directly, or do we collect questions? Do I answer directly?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, I know this has it's a general. I appreciate that it has generated some confusion. The idea was originally simply the origin was budgetary calculation. We started with the assumption that each dimension, if there are different dimensions, could be worth up to or of around 2.5 million. And you see some, not many, but some projects, some topics only have a budget of 2.5, and in these cases you don't have several dimensions. There's one under scope. If you have the standard number of 5, then there are usually 2 dimensions. Okay, whilst the starting point in our calculation was that each dimension could be worth 2.5, this does not really pin. You can apply for the full budget, but that is of course risky, because then you're kind of assuming you top the list, otherwise, because then we can only fund one. We generally feel, and that's always put in the text, that an application in the region of 2.5 is sufficient. And then the question is, do you want to address only one of the dimensions or both? But that's up to the applicant. It is not the case, contrary to some rumors, that it is a disadvantage if a proposal focuses only on one of the dimensions. It is it is also okay, and we have seen in the past, we've had this of course already in 2016, we have, sometimes it also happens among winning projects that they focused on one dimension and straddled the other a little bit. That's also okay. It must make sense from the project. Sometimes, of course, there are closer links between the different dimensions, and sometimes they're a bit separate. That may, of course, also inform the strategy. But what is not the case is that it's not a disadvantage if, and it shouldn't be a disadvantage if a proposal focuses on one dimension only. Having said that, if that's the case, then that one dimension should be addressed comprehensively. And then I would really advise to pay very close attention to the wording and really address every sentence under that strand. Finally, final remark on this, and it's not meant, hopefully not confusing, but it does not qualify what I've said, so it remains true. Focusing on one dimension is fine. But of course, we have this tripartite structure. So there is, of course, the specific challenge as an introduction. This should be different, so that's okay if you only address those that relate directly to the one dimension. But I would advise that the proposal does pay due regard to the specific challenge, so that they, whilst they are focusing on one dimension only, are making a contribution just to addressing the specific challenge more generally. Yeah. And perhaps again, one final point: when somebody applies more comprehensively, addressing two, so both, if it's 5 million, both dimensions, they don't have to ask for 5 million.
Okay, thank you very much, Yuri. I think it's already replied. So I'm gonna, as I don't see any other right hand, I will go to the questions we have on the chat. The first one is for the new topics on migration. How many projects is European Commission expecting to be funded?
That relates to the budget. So it depends. The answer is really, I have to go, let me see, go back to slide, engaging global at the beginning. Where are we? No, co-creation. Yeah, slide number 6. Slide number 6. That is a summary of the new one and then the 5 new topics. The budget is set. With respect to the platforms, we would assume, we don't know, but we would assume they are earmarked for 2 million, yeah, each. Sorry, I'm shouldn't make mistakes, so I go back to my notes. Ref in equal 11 and 12, so that would be slides 20 and 21. There are the 2 platforms, coordination and support action, one research platform and one research social platform. We would assume that this will be one each. We would assume that. But that's not set in stone. If there are 2 which think, and they're very good, which think they can actually do it with 1 million, and we may have fun too, but that is, I think, may not have one platform each. With respect to ref in equal 13, which has a budget of 2.5 million, which normally would be the size of a normal standard application. But again, this is not set in stone, but we would normally, this is the budget is set for really one project, I guess. This will be different certainly in 18 to 20. I can foreshadow this. We are looking to fund certainly more projects under each topic, but we're not there yet. But also bear in mind, this is additional money, additional topics.
Okay, Yuri, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have another 2 questions on the chat. The first one refers to co-creation 2 and 3 that were cancelled. They are now published. In the case regarding the Annex K of the work program and the attendee Nuria Claver would like to know, would like to have more information on what a third party is in this specific context, and more details about these third parties.
On under co-creation 2 and 3,
we have this new Annex K, sorry, on the financial support to third parties, and attendee would like you to elaborate a little bit more on what these third parties means.
I would rather use my colleague Francois Junger will speak to you as well, right? I would rather defer that question to him. Yeah.
Okay.
So he normally presents that. I would prefer if he answered that. I'm not so sure. I would be yeah, that's not my domain. I think I better pass this. I may otherwise give misleading information.
Okay. Anyway, I would like to inform you that we have NCPs specifically for legal and financial issues, so we might contact our Spanish colleague for legal and financial issues to give us more information on this. Nuria Claver y otros interesados, sin ningún problema, a través de nosotros podemos contactar con nuestros puntos nacionales de contacto de temas legales y financieros que tienen amplia experiencia en estos asuntos. Okay, I will go to the last question so far. It's about COP 7, and the question is, do we need to take into consideration the technology readiness? If so, how much for the first stage?
Cultural cooperation. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Cultural cooperation 7, you said?
COP 7, yeah. Yeah, 7.
Cultural heritage of coastal and maritime regions. Okay. So the question was whether?
The question is if they need, the applicants need to take into consideration the technology readiness level, the TRL, that the TRL that are very used in other calls and in other challenges. It's not so frequent here in Challenge 6, but it's anyway very useful to know how close to the market a project should be.
I think they should be. Let me look. Yes, especially I think the the pilot. No, I would expect that to be the case, but let me. I just go back to. I haven't drafted this. I go back to the text. So what do you mean with how close to the market?
We have this scale, you know, from 1 to 9, I guess, from very far to the market to the pilots. It's very normal if you go to other industrial challenges and areas, let's say. And it's this scale we have for the technology readiness levels. In many cases, in other challenges, you see this scale directly included into the topic. What the topic is expected from 1 to 3, from 6 to 8, etc. I don't know if you are familiar with this.
I am not, no. But I can ask my colleague, Zoltan. It would perhaps even be easier if you, he's on the slide as well, on the first slide, you know, Zoltan Krasnai.
Which slide, sorry? Which number?
It's the very first slide. So that's presenters, it's myself, and that Krasnai. I give you, I make between you, he's such level of detail. I'm afraid I do not know that. Again, I don't want to say anything.
You agree, Mauricio? You can contact us.
Yeah.
Agree and contact us directly, and we will pass the question to Yuri.
I will
check internally how to solve it. Okay, yeah. Great. We have another question, and I see a hand, so I'm going to pass the micro to Ana Maria Esteles.
Okay.
Hello.
Hola, Ana.
Hello. Hola.
Yes.
Hello. Do you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So my question is regarding migration costs. Third countries are mentioned in the costs, and I'm not sure which is the role that do you expect to have these third countries, considering these restrictions in terms of funding and policies. So,
yes, I should say that. Yes. Okay. So in the two, let me go back. In the two platforms, I think it's both mentioned. Of course, the general funding rules are, you know, that BRICS countries do not receive funding anymore. Neither they participate, but they do not receive funding. Apart from that, then the question arises: if you've got partners, say in the US and Canada, whom you think may have their own funding and whose expertise may bring an additional added value, comparative added value to the project, then it would certainly be an asset. Okay?
Yeah.
So, particular in relation to
conflict areas or
yes. And also, of course, particularly I'm thinking about the one engaging globally on migration, the old one.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense to bring in developing countries.
Okay.
Yeah? So it's not a must. It's never a must. But it can be a real asset if it makes sense for the overall project, and that's usually bringing in an additional perspective and on, for example, asylum and migration. I remember that, reference equals 12.
Yes.
If you have a comparative perspective where the idea is the purpose of bringing this partner on board is what can Europe learn from this, you know? So how to shed light on it, yeah?
So that won't be considered a negative point, for instance.
It's not necessary. It could be a plus, but it doesn't have to be. It's, you know. So I think if pay close attention to the formulations. When we sometimes say comparative studies could include third countries, yeah, but with a view to sort of enhancing the insights on the European arena.
Okay,
yeah.
And
it's not just per se the study of third countries. That's usually what's not intended, unless if you go, of course, into this migration development topic. There, of course, developing countries in their specific perspective makes a lot of sense. So it's really, I would really go about it thematically. So what's the point of the project? Do third parties really enhance the quality of the research? That's the idea. Then it's an aspect.
Thank
if
you.
It's just that, yeah, okay. Hello?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ana Maria and Yuri. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
We don't have more questions as far as I can see. So very last opportunity for questions. So I think everything was very clear. Yuri, thank you very much for the session. I will now switch to Spanish to say bye, everyone. Muchas gracias a todos los asistentes de este primer webinario que hemos hecho aquí desde Reto 6, desde la Oficina Europea. En primer lugar, disculpad los problemas que hemos tenido con el tema de la logística. Es cierto, desde la Comisión, Yuri ha tenido que hacerlo al teléfono, así que, bueno, hemos tenido algunas diferencias. Hemos tenido algunas diferencias con las transparencias. En cualquier caso, vamos a distribuir las presentaciones y el vídeo estará disponible para vosotros, para los asistentes. También os recuerdo que al cerrar la sesión vais a tener un cuestionario sobre el webinario, que en nuestro caso, al ser el primero que realizamos, os agradeceríamos mucho que rellenarais y sobre todo que nos dierais vuestra visión sobre cómo ha ido, y para que sigamos explorando esta vía de comunicación con vosotros. Y en general para el resto, para lo que queda hasta cierre de convocatoria en febrero y para cualquier otra convocatoria que os planteéis en el futuro, los puntos nacionales de contacto estamos aquí para ayudaros. Como a mí me gusta decir, este es el comienzo de una bonita amistad. Espero que sigamos en contacto. Tenéis nuestro correo electrónico, donde respondemos las 3 puntos nacionales de contacto, que es sociedades.h2020@oficinaeuropea.es. Y sin más, y con una puntualidad pasmosa, agradezco mucho a Yuri que haya podido participar con nosotros. Thank you very much, Yuri, for being here with us. Y muchas gracias a todos los asistentes que habéis estado con nosotros toda la sesión. Muchas gracias y hasta pronto.
Okay, hasta pronto. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.